Hey guys, David from DJ Productions, and in this video I'm going to show you how to read patterns for candy cuffs and how to actually make the cuff. This is a beginner level candy tutorial. So the pattern I'll be using was designed by myself on candypatterns.com using their pattern making tool. It's 30 columns wide and 10 rows tall. Usually candy pattern websites and bead pattern tools will show you your design all laid out, not connected around like how a cuff actually is. So keep in mind when designing your own patterns that the beads on each end are going to touch each other once you start making the cuff. So reading the pattern is pretty simple. Your first row of beads will be the full number of columns of your design, and every row that follows will only be half. For example, in this pattern, my first row will consist of 30 beads and every row I string after will only consist of 15 beads each. What Candy Patterns does that I love is label the rows, like this. See how the very bottom row, your first row, has all number ones, but the full second row has the numbers 2 and 3? That's because when you start making your cuff, you're basically weaving the next row within the previous row. But I'll get into that later. Once you have your pattern picked out, whether it be a pre-designed one or one you've created yourself, you're ready to make the cuff. To make the cuff, you'll need pony beads, some sort of elastic cord, and scissors. One thing that helps me when making cuffs is laying out the designs with beads first. What this does is show you if you're missing beads or not, and it'll help you keep track of where you are on your pattern. This is an extra step, you don't have to do this, but I highly recommend that you do. First thing you want to do is cut a nice chunk of elastic from your roll and string on the very first row of beads. Again, this should be the row and the only row you string all your columns through. It should have the most beads out of all the rows in your cuff. When you reach the end of your first row, you should have a long end of elastic and a short end of elastic coming out through either end of the row. You want this. You're going to use the longer end of elastic to string on the rest of your beads. Now tie this row off as if you're creating a single. Your long end should be coming out of the last bead of the row, and the next bead you string through should be the bead you started with. Don't string through that first bead. Instead, take the first bead of your second row, string the elastic through it, then string your elastic through the second bead of the first row. Yes, you are skipping the first bead. Next, take the next bead of your second row and string it through the fourth bead of the first row. Again, you are skipping a bead. And continue this pattern until you return back to the beginning of the second row. See, you should have strung just half the number of beads you strung in your first row. Now you'll see your elastic coming out of the last bead of your first row. Obviously, if you try to string another bead, your cuff will look funny. So what you want to do is string the elastic through the bead that directly follows the bead that the elastic is currently coming out of. In this case, the elastic is coming out of the last bead of the first row. Now you're going to take the elastic and string it through the first bead of the second row. That's the bead that's right next to the one that your elastic is coming out of. Don't add another bead when doing this. Next, you want to follow the same process you use for the second row for the rest of the cuff, weaving the elastic between the next row and the previous row, stringing the same number of beads each time, except for the first row, of course. Now this is really important. You might have to replay this part a few times before you really understand it. After the first row, every 2 rows will require you to skip to the next bead after the previous starting bead. In other words, rows 2 and 3 started on the first bead of the row. Rows 4 and 5 started on the second bead of the row. Rows 6 and 7 will start on the third bead of the row, and so on and so forth. This is because every time you string to the next row, your starting points shift. They shift over a bead. And all the odd number rows start on the shifted start anyways. That's why it's every 2 rows. Once you got that concept down, it's really easy to finish your cuff. If you run out of elastic in the middle of your cuff, just tie on some more. When you come to the end, just tie it off and cut off any excess. There you go, your very own candy cuff. I hope this tutorial helped and answered any questions you might have had. If you have any more, feel free to ask. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials and other videos. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr at DJBoy3000, DJB0Y3000. This is David from DJ Productions. Stay perfect.